Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the CSTV. I'm your host, Kathleen Egaltoto, Madam CS, and this is the Women Warriors of Africa's Independence. Stay tuned and have it raw and real. Kindly remember to subscribe, share, comment, and like this video. On 30th May of 2003, when a stooped 72-year-old man arrived at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, everybody thought that he was the legendary Mau Mau General Sidelining Mathenge. The women ululated, the dancers chillated, and the members of parliament at that particular time considered all termed the day as the greatest day of Kenya's history, because finally the great Mathenge was back in the country after 48 good years since he left during the Mau Mau War. However, later on, this turned to be a case of mistaken identity, and therefore the once again forgotten Mathenge became forgotten once more again. However, behind this great name, General Sidelining Mathenge, lies a forgotten history, a story of Mirriam Muthoni Mathenge, who was a Mau Mau fighter, but also the wife to Sidelining Mathenge. Many times when her story is told, it is told from Mathenge's perspective and not from her perspective as a Mau Mau veteran. The CSTV in the Women Warriors of Africa history travels back to history and brings you the story of Mirriam Muthoni Mathenge. Who was Mirriam Muthoni Mathenge? Where was she born? How was she brought up? When and why did she join Mau Mau? How did she fight? What were her experiences in the Mau Mau War of Independence? What is her life after the Mau Mau War of Independence came to an end? Where is Mirriam Muthoni Mathenge? Stay tuned and let's have these conversations raw and real. Mirriam Muthoni Mathenge. When the story of Mau Mau War of Independence is told, it is told from a masculine perspective. It is presented as a masculine affair where many a times what we see are many Mau Mau veterans as opposed to women Mau Mau veterans. A lot of women who actually participated in the Mau Mau War of Independence are unappreciated, unrecognized, and even undocumented. Such is the case of Mirriam Muthoni Mathenge, the wife of the legendary General Sidelining Mathenge, once an ex-soldier in the Second World War and one of the generals in Mau Mau War of Independence, who went to exile and who has never come back to Kenya again, and his whereabouts not known. So Mirriam Muthoni Mathenge was born 1926 in Gitugi village, Otaya, the present-day Nyeri County. As a young girl, Mirriam was about tendering her father's goods, fetching water, cooking, cleaning the house, etc. She was born during the colonial time, and she happened to grow with and experience the brutality of the colonial political economy in Kenya. So Mirriam, although today she has some command of Swahili, she didn't attend school per se because she only attended school for 2 years and dropped out. Her father was not onto these things of girl child education and the British formal education. and therefore he wasn't much interested about Mirriam going to school to get this education. Towards the end of 1940s, after the Second World War, Mau Mau movement was born in Kenya as a radical wing that was to fight and drive away the British white settlers out of Kenya. It was a radical wing of the KAU that was actually supposed to agitate the call for independence for Kenya. And this movement attracted a lot of people, majority from the Kikuyu, the Meru and the Embu of Kenya. Mirriam and many other women that we will be discussing in this series actually was among these people who were who joined this Mau Mau to fight for Kenya's independence. So Mirriam joined Mau Mau in 1950 as a supporter. At this particular time, she didn't take the Mau Mau oath. She only took the Mau Mau oath in 1953 after she got married to General Mathenge, who was already a Mau Mau fighter. And therefore Mirriam took her first oath of Mau Mau in a matrimonial compound. A lot of justification about the sidelining of women in Mau Mau is used especially when you find that a woman entered in the war and the man was already a fighter in that particular war. And therefore we forget the fact that this woman did not enter into Mau Mau because she was the wife of General Mathenge, but she entered into the war because she had experienced the colonial political economy oppression. Remember that before she got married to General Mathenge in 1953, already by 1950 she was a supporter of Mau Mau. And Mirriam didn't actually want to marry General Mathenge until her own father intervened, because General Mathenge would her hand in marriage, but Mirriam wasn't ready at that particular time. And therefore one cannot say that Mirriam entered Mau Mau because of the husband. And secondly, what we need to understand that Mirriam as a fighter in Mau Mau was part of the village fighters. Mau Mau had three sets of fighters: the Wolilo fighters who were in the forest, the village fighters who were in the villages, and the urban fighters who were in the urban centers like Nairobi. So Mirriam was among the women village fighters. And one could wonder, as a village fighter, what was Mirriam's role in Mau Mau War of Independence? She was among the women that were endowed with calling out of intelligence to know where the security guards were, to know where the colonial soldiers are, and alert their members, the Mau Mau fighters in the forest, to run away. These were the same. She was among the women who ensured that the fighters in the forest had enough food supplies, they had the weapons that they needed for attacks, and at the same time, she was among the women who actually nursed the wounded Mau Mau fighters. When you look at the roles that Mirriam was playing in Mau Mau, in addition to recruitment of new people into the group, in addition to giving oaths administration to the new members of Mau Mau, actually these were the most dangerous roles. And I'm telling you why these were the most dangerous roles. By 1954, the colonial administrators had realized that the women were the ears and the eyes of Mau Mau. Writing a letter about the Mau Mau situation, the colonial administrator in central Kenya at that particular time informed the officer in London that they have realized that women are the ears and the eyes of Mau Mau. And therefore, if Mau Mau had to be weakened, then they had to find a way of dealing with these women. And that's how villagization and the creation of women camps came into play to curtail this kind of women. Secondly, the roles that these women were playing and the roles that Mau Mau and the Mirriam and the fellow women village fighters were playing were among the roles that the British colonial administration had placed a capital punishment on if you were found doing the same. So if you were found failing weapons to the Mau Mau fighters in the forest, providing them with food, you were supposed to be killed. So these were not easy roles, the way they are generally taken to be like, you know, oh, this is the passive roles, they did nothing. It's one of the most central roles that this woman actually played in Mau Mau. So in 1955, Mirriam Muthoni was arrested. And I'll tell you why she was arrested. Mirriam Muthoni was arrested because she refused to tell the colonial administrators about the whereabouts of her husband. Within that particular period, a chief had been murdered. And the colonial administrators felt that people like General Mathenge were the people behind this murder. So when General Mathenge ran into the forest and left Mirriam behind, the colonial administration police came and the home guards and found Mirriam alone. Mirriam was beaten by over 20 police officers, and her mistake was not revealing the whereabouts of the husband. Despite the torture, the abuse, the physical assault that she received from the colonial British police officers, Mirriam did not tell them where the husband was, or even tell them if she knew any of the Mau Mau men or Mau Mau fighters. As a result, she was arrested and detained. 1 year in Otaya and 7 years in Kamiti maximum prison. Allow me to tell you something about Kamiti women prison. Kamiti women prison at that particular time was for the hardcore women. When I'm talking about the hardcore women, these are women who were seen as the difficult women in Mau Mau who could not give information. No wonder how much they were tortured actually. So in Kamiti, Mirriam was with other women such as Cindy Reddy and Mama Ngina Kenyatta, the mother to the first president of the Republic, the wife to the first president of the Republic of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, and the mother to the current president of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. So they were in that prison together. And Mirriam went to prison when her daughter, her last born daughter, was only 2 years old. So you can imagine, as a mother leaving behind your daughter and your children and being imprisoned for 7 years in prison because you were not able to tell the British administrators and the police where your husband is. So in Kamiti, Mirriam had a role to play, or she was assigned a responsibility, and her responsibility was to wash the buses or the rollies that ferried corpses of dead of people, like the vehicles that carried dead people. So she was among the women who were washing those vehicles. So it is important to note that Mirriam never saw her husband again. From 1955, Mirriam has never seen her husband up to date. It is another episode that I will tell you later when I'll be talking about the Mau Mau men veterans, about General Mathenge. I'll tell you what happened and why Mirriam has not been able to see the husband. It's because the husband is said to have gone into exile in 1957 somewhere, when there was kind of a divide in Mau Mau. But it is believed that he closed to Ethiopia, but it is not also very clear whether General Mathenge is alive, dead, was he killed or not. So Mirriam has never seen the husband today. So after detention, Mirriam came out of the prison more poorer than she went to that detention. But luck to her that the first president of Kenya, gave her 53 acres of land in Mwega town, Rubura village in Nyeri. Now, despite the fact that Mirriam has been granted these 53 acres of land, it is within the forest, and she really has great passion for the environment, and therefore she has been able to avoid all to stop charcoal panning in this forest, despite the fact that charcoal traders have approached her a lot with the aim that they pan charcoal from the trees around in the acre of land that she was given, in the 53 acres of land that she was given. Mirriam has stood her feet firm that she will not allow anybody to destroy the environment in the name of getting charcoal for trade. Mirriam keeps her dreadlocks up to date. The dreadlocks that she left within the forest, she keeps them up to date, and these dreadlocks are a symbol for her that yes, she was given 53 acres of land, but she feels that the Mau Mau fighters, especially the women, have not enjoyed the fruits of the independence that actually they fought for in the forest. And therefore, as a form of resistance, she has kept her long dreadlocks. It is the dreadlocks that actually she hides behind her headgear. And she believes that if she exposes them, then they will have some fungal diseases, something that she doesn't want. And therefore, she has kept her dreadlocks with a lot of caution, with a lot of sensitivity and care, with the hope that she will only shave these dreadlocks when she feels that actually the Mau Mau fighters have been actually given the best recognition and reward they do deserve as the people who fought for the independence of Kenya. Of big pain to her is the fact that she has not been able to find or to see her husband, and that her husband's whereabouts have not been actually known. You know, in 2003 May, when a 72-year-old man landed at JKIA, she thought, and everybody thought, that was General Mathenge. The state was waiting. The man from Ethiopia was accorded the highest level of reception in Kenya. The dancers chillated, the women alulated. But it turned out to be a case of mistaken identity, killing the hopes of Mirriam that she will ever see the husband. But of pain, of greater pain, from a woman perspective also, is the fact that Mirriam's efforts in Mau Mau are rarely spoken about, because she's normally recognized as the widow to General Mathenge. You know, a lot of credit goes to the husband, and very little actually is told about her role in Mau Mau War of Independence. That is the story of Mirriam Mathenge. Today, she sits in her 53 acres of land that she received from the first president of Kenya in Nyeri County. With her dreadlocks still on, it is a question: for how long is Mirriam going to resist? And actually, is anybody recognizing her form of resistance and actually appreciate, recognize, and compensate the women Mau Mau fighters? Stay tuned. See you next time.